Hey folks, we're going camping, but we're going camping where there's no electricity, so I'm taking all the electrical appliances out of the trailer. This is my teapot, and this is my heater. They help when there's electricity. So we are going somewhere where there is no hot showers. There are cold showers. This is the beach in North Carolina. So we have to flush the water and get the hot water tank working just in case we need hot water for a shower. We're going out for 5 days. That's a long time to go without a shower. So we're gonna get that working and that running. We're gonna put in a new anode rod and make sure it's clean. We're gonna flush the water to make sure the antifreeze is out of the system. And if you remember, I only put a little bit of antifreeze in it, so that'll be good. So this is the anode rod for my trailer. It is over 7 years old and it is hardly worn. And there are two types of anode rods. There's aluminum and there are magnesium ones. And one's for hard water, one's for soft water, depending on what kind of area you live in. I don't know if you travel the whole world, you're going to see a lot of different water. So I don't know that you can really find one that's right for everything. But I do know that this rod has not changed in 7 years. I figure just for the hell of it, I'm going to change to a magnesium rod, which I believe is a little more reactive. And it has little markers on it to show you how much it's worn off and stuff like that. So I'm going to put that in. Yeah, this is aluminum. It's got an aluminum thing on the end. We're going to put a lot of Teflon tape on this to make sure that it is easy to get in and out. We do have a socket just for this little head. Don't ask me why, just lazy. But it's a lot easier with all the piping and wiring in there. So we're putting 5 wraps of Teflon tape on there and then breaking it off hard. I think I want to run my drill in there. The threads are pretty rusty because I had the thing out for about 2 years. I haven't used that hot water tank in 2 years. So I want to get the threads and run a wire brush in there on my drill. That'll clean up those threads. And yes, I'm filling my hot water tank up, or my cold water tank up, with a black hose. It's my garden hose. I let the water run for a good 20 minutes through the hose. That rinses out most of the nasty flavors and nasty things for the hose. Excuse me a second. We have business to do here. If you haven't drunk out of a hose in your life, you're missing out on childhood, I guess. Now, let's turn on the pump. Now you can see the shower head over there is getting rid of the tiny little bit of antifreeze I had. We have a bypass for antifreeze, so I just fill from the pump to the shower head. That's all I fill with antifreeze. The big tank isn't going to be bothered. The little tank, the hot water tank, isn't going to be bothered. But so now we are flushing out the hot water tank. All that rust I put in there, flushing that out, flushing out the drain of all the antifreeze that was in there, and the shower in the pump has been flushed out. So really now we're just watching the water go down in the main tank, and then we'll throw some Clorox in there and let it sit for the 3 days before we go camping, and we should be good to go. We'll just flush it out again and fill it back up. Should be great. All right. And in case you want to know, the socket for this little thing is 1 1/16. So I use this breaker bar. This is my tool. It'd be easier with an extension on it because it's way in there, but it's easy to get in there. And you just want to snug it up tight, especially if you got a lot of Teflon tape. It'll snug up real tight and won't leak. Now I'm going to run the pump with the water tank until I get hot water out of the shower, which it looks like it's getting there. But the hot water tank is 6 gallons and it's all air right now, so I got to fill it with water. And that'll take the 10-gallon cold water tank down to 4 gallons. So you got to refill that. But you want, hear that? That's the air coming out of the tank. Got to get all that air out of the hot water tank, and then we'll know that it's full. And then I can refill the cold water tank, and I'll have maximum water in the trailer. The other thing you can do and should do is at least once a year, you have a relief valve, an emergency relief valve at the top of your hot water tank. If you pull this little lever out, listen, that also lets the air out of the tank so it can fill. And that tests your hot water tank emergency valve to make sure that it works and it doesn't, you know, if the tank ever run dry and it just got steam in there, it wouldn't blow up in the trailer. It would come out, it would vent there. So if you ever see steam coming out of your hot water tank, that's what's happening. You forgot to put water in it and you turned it on. And if you do that while the pump's on, water will come out of there and it'll clean it out. So that's a good idea too. Now you may have heard the pump go off, and that means I don't have any leaks. The pump's is on, the hoses are all pressurized. Everything's got pressure, the hot water tank, the faucets, everything in the water system is pressurized. And I don't hear it coming on or off. If it goes on and off and on and off, it means you've got a leak somewhere. If the hot water tank isn't full and it's full of air, sometimes it'll go on and off because of that. So again, come over to your pressure relief valve, pull on the little handle there and see if there's air in there or water. If water comes out, you probably have a leak somewhere in the trailer. And that's the problem with water. You never know until it has a major problem. Excuse me while I get rid of this ball. I wish I had the camera on him when he jumps in the air to get this, because he's pretty impressive. Just so you folk know, haven't been goofing off. I have been goofing off from camping, but this is my backyard. Right now, it looks just damn lovely. I'm pretty proud of it. I got a layer of herbicide to kill some of the grassy weeds that are in it so that it's nice, tough, tall fescue. But I got rid of all my Bermuda grass, which just lays on top of the clay and makes it slippery. So we've got Aquila a nice yard that he can run and play in, and he doesn't wreck the grass, and he doesn't bring in a lot of mud. So that was the reason for taking a couple weeks off from videos. I was obsessed with grass. Leave it. All right. Have you ever seen your hot water system work? Let's see if we can show you what it does. Usually it goes click, 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 click while it's trying to light and the propane's nowhere nearby. But if you look in here, you can see the flame. Goes all the way down and around and back up here. You can feel the heat. And it heats it up to about 140 degrees, I believe. I've never let mine get that hot. I usually turn it off as soon as it gets warm, take a shower and turn it off, and never turn it back on. The other thing I like to do when the trailer's sat for a while, it's been sitting here for quite a long time, is I like to pump a little grease into the axle. Now what you got to do is take this little cover off, and that's the easy way I do it. And then you can look at the grease that's in the axle. So the nice thing is that these axles are easy lube axles. So you just take a grease gun. This is a $10 grease gun, I think, from Walmart, and fill it with, you put a tube of grease in here, and you want to kind of try to find out what kind of grease you had, or you need to really change the whole axle of grease, clean it and do it. But I've done it, so I know what's in here, and I've been doing it the same every year. So that actually fits on there and is locked on there. And you can just, I can just pump grease into the axle. And depending on how bad I've been driving, it'll come out around the edge. It'll pump back out to me. And you don't want to do that too fast, or it'll blow the seal in the back of the axle. There's another seal on the other side, and it's going there and coming back. So that seal has to push it to the front. So you don't want to go too fast, or you'll break that axle. You'll pop that seal so that the grease goes out that way. Let me get another paper towel. I took off the cap, and I go in here with a screwdriver and just see what's in there. It's mostly black, grimy grease. It's just gross. So what I'm going to do, you got to get out of here. I'm going to pump some grease in it, and hopefully I can show this to you. But I'm not pumping too fast. I want it to get through the bearing and back out. And there's a seal in the back that possibly could pop and leak if I pump too hard or too fast. The grease has to go in there and then come back forward. So you got to let it kind of work its way. Okay, now if you can look right in here, you can see the grease coming out. You can just see that moving out. And that's the good grease forcing out the bad stuff. And you do have to give it quite a few pumps to get that grease to come out like that. And people say you should pump it until you see good grease. I don't think I believe that. I pump it till I see a good deal of grease all the way around. And that's pretty good right there. And then I wipe off all that extra so it doesn't make a major mess inside that cap. So the next time I take off that cap, it's not a big gross thing. But that's the grease that came out. Take it back. So that's the grease that came out. Pretty dirty. And I put in a nice green grease, a lithium-based grease. You want to try to make sure you get the same grease each time, because some of them don't mix. And if you see a lot of water, like I'm getting a little water out of here, you might want to pump some more in, which I might do. Because grease and water don't mix too well, but they don't really, if you've got a boat and it's in the water all the time, yeah, you want to do this every time. But you got a highway trailer, You know, it should be pretty well sealed so it's not getting too much water in there. All right, I'm going to do the other side, and then I might come back to this side because I don't want to run out of grease on just one side. So I'll be right back. Then when you're all done and you got that pretty cleaned off, looks good. You got the cotter pin in there. The castle nut is nice. I don't like to take that off because I don't want to change the tension on those bearings. It's been going good for several thousand miles. I probably should have gotten the grease off of this, but I'm not going to bother now. You just set that in there. Just give it a couple of light taps to seat it down in there. Some people will tell you take a piece of wood and place it over the top and bang on the wood. But I just set them in there like that. Occasionally these things will come off and you'll have to get a new one, but just go to an auto parts store and show them the side, the other side, and they'll give you one the same as this side. All right, now we're gonna chlorinate the water system in the trailer. And that hasn't been done in this trailer in at least a year and a half. So it's important to do. And I do drink the water. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't have any serious parasites like maybe a mountain stream might have or a lake or something would have, but it does get kind of a distaste to it. So we're going to put some chlorine in it. And the way I do it is I use a syringe I got off Amazon, and you can get these in all different sizes. Normally I would only use 2 ounces for the 10-gallon tank. And you just use regular bleach. This is, you know, your basic household bleach from Publix. But I want you to notice one thing. Something I learned from COVID this year, you do learn things from terrible diseases and things, is that, you know, all of these bleaches have a date on them. Right there. And if yours doesn't have a date, don't buy it. Bleach that's out of date has lost between 50 and 80% of its chlorine, free chlorine that disinfects things and bleaches things and does things. So always make sure that you've got a date on there and that it's within date. This is out of date by 2 months, so not too bad. So I'm going to use it, but I might put twice as much in here to make sure the system's chlorinated. But, and you know, you should have special clothes for handling chlorine because you're always going to get it all over yourself. So I got a little thing, I added that to the end of the stopper, and I'll put that in there and we'll bring up the chlorine. Okay, so I've got 2 ounces of chlorine in my syringe, and I just stick that in there and spray it in. And it's usually a good idea to follow it through with a good long hose washing to spin it around in there and rinse and well mixed. And once I've got my water tank full of chlorinated water, I'll run my faucet up here to let the chlorine come up through the faucet and the pipes and the pump and all that to make sure that's chlorinated. And I'm going to run it until I smell the chlorine, which I overdid the chlorine because that was pretty old Clorox. So I can smell it pretty good. And that's really all you need to do. Now I can run the hot water, but of course it's taking water from the tank. It's not taking it from the cold. So it's going to put chlorinated water into the tank and through those valves. And that's okay too. I want them to be kind of chlorinated. I don't worry about the tank. And that's good. Now I'm just going to go out and do the outside shower and let this sit overnight, and then tomorrow I'll rinse it out with fresh water, drain all that out, and we'll be good to go. Okay, these are the new white spots on my shirt. It's always good to have a dark shirt to do Clorox. Now, I don't spend much time on Facebook because I just don't get much out of it. And But this is one thing that I am tickled to death to share with you, and that is paint this thing white. This shows up in the reverse camera on my car amazingly well. And when I'm trying to get the trailer hitch under it late at night after work or getting out of the campground, boy, does that work great. So if you haven't done that, use Rust-Oleum. It'll stop the rust, and it works great. Tip of the day. Well, folks, I think that's long enough. That's enough things to do. The other thing I do on my trailer is I'll be checking to make sure all the lights work, all the driving lights, all the interior lights, all the flashlights I bring with me. I have about 4 flashlights, 2 headlights. I'll be taking all the stuff that uses shore power out to lighten the trailer and make a little more room for the mutt here. I'll be doing the checking the tires to make sure they're in good shape and properly inflated, and then we'll be ready to go. We'll be getting to the beach this week and visiting the Outer Banks and getting around as much as we can. So stay tuned for those. Subscribe so you don't miss them. Hit that bell so you get notified as soon as the videos come up, usually Thursday night or Thursday morning. And leave me a comment, thumbs up. It helps the channel. The channel's growing real slow. I don't mind at the moment, but I got a little time left at work, and this is a big relief to do this channel versus worrying about work on the weekends. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. Stay good. Bring out. Out. Bring out. Out.